want to tell us about this article, Don?
Yeah, I was sitting there in the, I think it was like the Hampton Inn lobby last week when I was in the DC area. And, they always have the TV on during breakfast. And I saw like a little feature on this. So I did some research, found an article about it. Basically, it's about an U.S. Army veteran from Phoenix, a guy named Richie Neider. He's the first Arizona veteran to receive this robotic exoskeleton that is helping him walk. It is actually enabling him to walk almost like normal. You can see what it looks like there. He has some things that he has to use still with his hands. But this gentleman, first of all, thank him for his service. Has been wheelchair bound for over a decade since getting seriously injured during the Iraqi conflict, and so this exoskeleton is made by a company called Rewalk, Rewalk. It's called the Personal 6.0 Exoskeleton, and these run about 75,000 a pop, roughly, and they were approved for commercial use in 2014. There's over 600 of them in use today. Really interesting. They are battery powered, a motorized system. So people with spinal cord injuries or other disabilities, it enables them to walk because there's motors at the hips and at the knee joints that allow the legs to move when they basically move their torso in such a way that they tilt it in a certain way. It takes about 2.5 months to get trained on how to actually use it properly over 28 sessions. And what's really cool is that the Department of Veterans Affairs actually has a national program, and that's how Richie was able to receive this particular. Sorry, of course my dog's in the background, like having fun there. Not having fun. She had some surgery. So anyway, I just thought this was an amazing article, and that shows like how robotics is really changing people's lives at a real human level. I'd love to hear other people's thoughts.
I really
I
like
find.
the
Go ahead, Anna. Sorry.
thank you. It's really interesting to see for how you can use exoskeletons and exosuits for rehabilitative purposes. And in Europe, I mainly know them from industrial uses where, in the automotive industry, for instance, they would use it that workers could more easily move things. You can lift more weight. You can have more endurance, etc. But again, here there's also potential for misuse because, of course, it enhances your bodily skills. And I read an interesting article a while ago about enhanced burglary techniques using exoskeletons or exosuits because you can more easily climb or lift things. And an interesting aspect was that for the time being, it's still something which is very costly, not affordable for many. It's difficult to access, but that's certainly going to change at some point. And again, we have not only to have the beneficial uses on our radar, but also potential misuses. And I guess the big challenge is really how you can use regulation to constrain the bad without really frustrating the good, because the example chosen is telling. I mean, it gives a person new life and new possibilities, but at the same time, as every technology, the potential for misuse is there, and criminals are usually very quick in adopting new technologies, often much faster than enforcers. If I think of cyber technology, for
Yeah,
instance,
usually.
yet first cyber crimes and then police using cyber means to investigate crime or to prevent crime. So just a thought from a more security oriented
Yeah,
person.
the street finds a way to use things that are outside of the inventor's intent, as we've seen with basically every technology. Don, you're muted.
I see that. I thought I was a glass half empty kind of gal, but it has got me beat.
I appreciate it
I'm
though.
like, this is such a happy story. She's like, could you imagine like them, the criminals using it? No, but it's like seriously, do you remember the movie Avatar, the first one? I know they're having a C one out, Anna, right? Under C one, but you know, it was like the army, the guys that were using the giant exoskeletons to kill the blue people, you know, and like pillage the planet. So yeah, there's always going to be a negative side to technology. I just love this story though.
Well, yeah, well, it's creating strength where there isn't, right? So any kind of use of strength, good and bad, these things will be used for. The technology is necessarily neutral. Sean, you got a comment?
Yeah, for industrial, we see it a lot where they've started the adoption to prevent injury. Because, like you say, the strength basically, like if you're doing a automotive manufacturing line and all of your work is overhead, you're constantly doing something along those lines. So that's where I see a lot of advantages to this. That immediately it supports, it makes it less chance of an injury. So I think that's a big move there. The other thing I think is it makes it.
Oh, Sean, looks like we lost you for a second.
Sorry about that. Yeah, it also makes it where people are able to, I think, utilize something like this in a way that allows them not just to prevent injury, but allows them to do better work. So they're more efficient. They're able to do things without. I guess cobotics is the way I look at it is collaborative robotics, and the fact that in this case the humans not being taken out of the equation, it's enhancing what they're able to do. But I think it's a great story in the rehabilitation space. It's fantastic to hear that it's starting to be adopted. I mean, to hear there's hundreds of units even in that capacity is great to hear about. But I like the idea that it allows humans potentially to continue to do the work at a safer and enhanced way, and then help people rehabilitate who've had injuries. It's just a great story.
Yeah, I think this is actually the most undersold kind of sector or niche in robotics. I think people really, for whatever reason, haven't grasped onto the absolute potential of this. Because all right, let's take your cobotics example. If you've seen even uses of exoskeletons that aren't like full body exoskeleton, they're just a back brace type of thing that allows somebody to hold a riveter that's much heavier than what a normal human capacity is. And so now we've created a situation or a scenario where a human has the flexibility because our machine that was evolved over years is highly flexible and has a lot of dexterity, but we may not have the strength to complete a task. Now you're combining the two. And you could also increase accuracy for the human, right? So kind of all types of lock-on systems and things like that. So there's that, and then there's also this amazing kind of humanitarian use case. Because if we look what's going on, let's say Ukraine, Afghanistan, Syria, conflict zones throughout the world, people are maimed, injured, and made disabled. And then there are people that are born that way here and abroad. And to give these people access to a life that is more average, right, in terms of capability, it allows them to take their brain and use it in the world in a way that they would not have been able to less than a decade ago. And $75,000 might seem expensive now, but what happens when that's $25,000 and it could easily be covered by generic insurance? What happens when it's $5,000 and hey, I want to be able to do this task, or I want to do some work on my house. Rather than hire somebody, I'm just gonna buy the exoskeleton. I think this fundamentally changes humans, their abilities in the world. Maybe we could compete with the robots finally.